Hey, I'm Djisso and this is going to be a walkthrough type of video. I've been struggling when it comes to even completing the Dragon Arenas, so I know that this video is going to have plenty of insights when it comes to how to perform in those new arenas because they are really challenging. Whether you want to go for the gold stamps or just get the 3 regular stamps, they are quite the hassle to get. So hopefully by the time you watch this video, you're going to be more resourceful and perform well. Let's go. The first challenge is called Rollercoaster, where you have to defeat 10 targets within a time limit. So I decide here to break this structure and get a weapon. The reason why is simple. I want to stun both the disciple and the guy standing next to him. That way we can just perform an insta-kill and throw the disciple over, saving a bunch of time. Usually the disciples tend to waste your time and you don't want that to happen. Here you can try to aim for the flash kick with a bottle, but it's so unlikely that I don't think it's going to be consistent. But it's very imperative that you defeat one of them to have an easier time and then just deal with the flash kick with Scorch Punch. Whenever you see her move, you can stun her and interrupt her animations. Now I decide to go over here as opposed to the front door. The reason why is because I want to surprise the Juggernaut from behind and again perform an insta-kill, saving a bunch of time. And then you can just defeat the normal grunt. It would have been preferable to just throw him over, but it's okay. You're going to see later that it doesn't matter. Here, there's going to be a disciple with the staff, and whenever you see a disciple with a weapon, you need to be very careful. Wait for her to come to you, perform the eye poke or eye strike, focus attack, and throw her over. Now, don't go all the way down, just wait for the people, for the enemies to drop down. And if you play your cards right, the Juggernauts, the 2 Juggernauts downstairs, are going to start making their way upstairs. And this is where you want them because you don't want to have to go all the way down and then have to use the stairs to go all the way up. So I strongly also advise using the there's like a focus attack whenever you are equipped with a bat or staff. I strongly advise using it because you can stun enemies and it only costs 1 focus bar, which is huge. So basically save your bars for those kind of encounters, as you can see here, throwing the disciple over, dodging, and then throwing that last disciple over, and that's the level for you. The time you should aim for when it comes to the gold stamps is 150, but as you can see, we were able to complete the level within 1 minute and 40 seconds. This next challenge is called Beyond the Brink, and it is easily one of the hardest arena in the whole game. I'm not kidding. Right now I decide to use the high contrast mode because I want to be able to see exactly where the enemies are standing and what I should do. It's very important that you keep in mind that they're going to spawn no matter what you do as you progress through the objective. Right now is to capture that spot, and I strongly advise getting familiar with Bomb Strike and the directional throw. You do not want to kill the enemies because they're going to spawn as fast as you defeat them. What you want to do instead is keep all of them in one spot and keep pushing them into each other, stunning them in the process. It's very important that you keep that in mind because you can easily get overwhelmed because you have to be aware that they will be coming from both sides, and no matter what you do, they will keep spawning. The only exception is the disciples and the bodyguards because they represent too much of a threat, and because enemies do not take turns, you need to be very cautious. Deal with the bodyguards as soon as you see them and keep everybody else away. Do not try to kill them. You can also save your focus bars for disciples. Those ones are very dangerous, see? And as long as you play your cards right, the reason why I decided to sweep that guy over there is because he can block the way. He is so fat that he can block the way while being on the ground, which means that we won't have to worry about enemies making their way toward us. And right there, it's just about using Bomb Strike to defend that one spot. You cannot stay in the middle, you need to stay on the edge of the box, and that way you're going to make sure that they don't enter. This challenge almost broke me because I kept falling short. Initially I thought the target was 2 minutes, and then I thought it was 150 or 145, but no, 140 is a hell of a target. But don't despair, hang in there, you get this. Hail Death, my old friend. This challenge is pretty straightforward. Stay as young as you can for 6 waves. The reason why I decided to include it is because I wanted you to know that some modifiers are very tricky to handle, and you should always make sure that you read carefully how the enemy is going to behave before you step into an arena. Right now, I feel like walk only is a problem. The reason why it is a problem is because enemies are going to walk to you, which doesn't sound threatening until you realize that if you have like 6 enemies, they will all walk at the same speed, which means they're all close together. And if that's the case, it makes it very hard to punish them or even attack them, because you can be easily stuck in one animation while another enemy is going to hit you, right? That's very dangerous. That's why I wanted to include it, just because I wanted you to know that you should be careful when picking your targets. You want to try your best to isolate them as opposed to trying to hit them while they're all close together. You also have 1 health point, which means that you cannot afford to get hit at all. So it's like, I thought this is so well thought, because on the surface it doesn't seem like a big deal. Enemies are walking, but I swear to God, this is one of the worst modifiers in the game, and hopefully you're going to see way more challenges. And whenever that's the case, whenever enemies are walking, it takes so much time to deal with them because you need to be so much more careful. The upside is you can take as much time as you want because there is no time limit. But that said, you should always be careful whenever you see a disciple, because even though they can walk, they can quickly close the gap by walking on the wall and attacking you. That's why, again, you should not be attacking multiple enemies, especially when they're all close together. If you can, just use your strong sweep to pin one disciple to the ground, maybe for like 10 seconds, and deal with everybody else by the time they go back on their feet. It's very sometimes you can catch you off guard the way they can just close the gap by walking onto walls. So yeah, always be careful when you see a disciples. They tend to spam that too. I guess this is the price to pay. Whenever they are walking, they will use those walls as they see fit. So always be careful and pick your targets. You do not want to fight two, maybe like a bodyguard and a disciple at the same time. That's very risky, especially because they both have super armor all the time, which is scary. So yeah, take your time. Dealing with Fajar. This one can be quite difficult depending on how comfortable you are with fighting Fajar, because this is going to be on the master difficulty, which means that you have less health and the enemies are also slightly empowered. So I'm assuming that if you never played on the master difficulty, you should definitely try to at least fight Fajar, because he's going to surprise you. He has new tricks up his sleeve and he will definitely kick your ass. This, in my opinion, this version of Fajar is, in my opinion, one of the hardest boss in the game. No cap, I'm not lying at all. So you should definitely get familiar with his moveset, maybe in training or in story mode, because if you don't, chances are he's going to kill you or hit you more than 6 times. So going through level is pretty straightforward, as long as you pick your targets, again, you don't want to fight many enemies at once. You always want to also divide and conquer. And don't forget that whenever you have all shrine bonuses, it means that your weapons are going to do way more damage. So you should take advantage of that, and especially against the juggernauts, you know, they can't do anything most of the time. They can retaliate whenever you're using weapons. So use weapons to your advantage. And again, I feel like the only tricky part is dealing with Fajar later on, and he's also going to be assisted, right? It's not even going to be just Fajar. It's going to be Fajar and people. So remember that you have all shrine bonuses, and there is that one advantage you have, which is basically that whenever you perform a dodge, you're going to get way more focus, right? So maybe you want to dodge more as opposed to parry more, right? That way you're going to build up the focus bars, which are going to be useful against Fajar because you want to use strong sweep and deal with the minions. Again, you don't want to fight Fajar, which is already like a big fish, with some minions. That's a terrible idea. But going through a level is pretty straightforward. Deal with the mob, you know, one at a time. You always want to have everybody in your line of sight and throw the weapons from time to time. Again, this is quite I wouldn't say easy, but this is doable. You can get to Fajar without getting hit, because in order to get the gold stamps, you have to not get hit more than 6 times, right? And I think this is right. This right here is where I got hit, because I underestimated just how much super armor that woman is going to have. And I think this is because usually she wouldn't, be able to tank those hits, but because this is a master difficulty, she is even more empowered. Oh, I forgot. You don't have your focus in this mission. It would have made things so much easier, but you don't have your focus, and unfortunately we got hit before we reached Fajar, but it's okay. I'm confident in my ability to go against Fajar without getting hit, and we're going to use chasing trick kick to make him trip, giving us time to deal with the minions, because again, we don't want to fight Fajar and the minions. That's just a great recipe for disaster. And if you still struggle when it comes to fighting Fajar, I made a video, actually made multiple videos about each boss except Shan on the master difficulty, because Shan is kind of trash no matter the difficulty, so we don't have to make a video about Shan. But yeah, you can check those videos out, and I can guarantee by the time you watch them, Fajar is going to be a joke. He's terrifying, yeah. But if you actually take the time to learn his patterns, I can guarantee you would never ever be scared of Fajar again. You will even start loving him. He's such a good boy and so adorable. And sometimes you can even stun him, with back fist whenever he's trying to do something. He's so cute. Oh, Fajar, I love him. In case you couldn't tell. So that was it. We dealt with Fajar, and we got hit only 3 times. It could have been better, it could have been perfect, but you know what? This is a W, and we take those. The last challenge of this series is called Crackdown. It is a typical score as many points as possible. But because the scoring system has seen multiple changes over time, I feel like the game has been out for a year and 8 months, maybe? And we've seen plenty of scoring system over time. But the one thing I can tell you when it comes to every single score related challenge is that you want to deal with the enemies as fast as you can, especially when your multiplier is at 3 and is glowing yellow. It's when you will get the maximum amount of points. And the reason why I came all the way up here is because throwing enemies is the best way to score as many points as possible. You don't want to use, especially if you have the opportunity to have such a elevated place you can just stay at, you definitely want to use that to your advantage. Just wait, perform, you can perform charge back fist or the crouch punch to interrupt enemies. We got hit, but that's okay. That's okay. And basically, it makes the whole challenge way easier. You know, it is very simple when you have your. You can just throw enemies over, but it gets very complicated whenever you have to actually hit enemies. And I feel like in the next series of arenas, we're going to see just how tricky it can be to the way of the Pac-Man. But yeah, anyway, that's it for this challenge. Basically, just parry, throw, parry, and throw. You should be good. The scoring system is designed to punish you whenever you abuse some skills. Let's say you use Flowing Claw, I'll say 3 times in a row. You're going to have diminishing returns because you are using the same skills. But for some reason, whenever you throw enemies over, it doesn't count as repeating the same skill. Right there, I thought about restarting the run, but I was like, you know what? I think we should be fine. And that's the thing. You get so many points by throwing enemies over that it doesn't matter sometimes when you get hit. You know, in other challenges that would have been game over, even getting hit once can be game over. But not in this one. This one is pretty chill actually. As long as you stay up here and throw enemies, you should be okay. As of right now, I'm still making my way through the Dragon Arenas, but I wanted to make this video, you know, to give people some insights. I'm still going to make a proper tips and tricks video later, by the time I gather enough information. But yeah, hopefully this is going to be helpful, and do let me know if you appreciate this kind of walkthrough, and well, I'll see you soon. Have a good day, night, week, month, or year, and peace.